Hello and welcome back to Jimbo's PC Builds. In today's video I'm going to do a quick rundown on how to change the keycaps on your keyboard. So firstly we need to go over the things that you need to keep in mind when you're changing the keycaps on your keyboard. In my case I'm going to be changing the keys on a Ducky One 2 full. So it's got a full array of keys including media keys across the top. So the first thing you need to do when you're going to buy a key set to put on your keyboard is to make sure that the key set has all of the keys. Perfect example of this is I actually bought a HyperX pudding keycap set, which is a really good keycap set, but it does not include the media keys. So I decided not to put these keycaps on my keyboard. The second thing you need to keep in mind is compatibility with the actual keyboard that you've got. The main reason being is on your keyboard, the spacebar is not always a uniform length, and sometimes, like other keys like your shift, your return, on either side can be different lengths. So you need to make sure that the keycap set is compatible before you buy it. A perfect example of this is I bought not just a HyperX white keycap set, I also bought a black keycap set because I've got a Ducky One 2 full black as well. But as I noticed, as mentioned earlier, that it didn't include the media keycap set. So I decided to put the black pudding keycaps on a Logitech keyboard I've got. All of the keys fit just about. I had problems with the caps lock, but the one thing that would not fit at all was the spacebar. The spacebar was a completely different length. So these two HyperX sets are specifically designed for a HyperX keyboard. So this is nothing against HyperX, it's myself that's to blame. I just bought them in Best Buy, not checking compatibility first. So what I did is I bought another keycap set off Amazon, which is specifically designed and compatible with the Ducky One 2 full. This includes the extra media keys. I don't know what the key set is like compared to the HyperX ones. As I say, I've already put the HyperX on my black keyboard, my Logitech keyboard, and I'm really impressed with it. It's a good keycap set, but it's interesting to see how these ones compare. So the first thing you need to worry about when you're changing your keycap set, obviously, is taking the old keycaps off. To take the keycaps off, you could try and do something like prying the keycaps off with your fingers, but I wouldn't recommend this. What you would normally do is use a keycap puller, which you normally get with a lot of keyboards. For example, this is that is the Ducky keycap puller, which came with this Ducky keyboard. This is another one that came with a different keyboard. I think it was from Cooler Master one. And then you get the smaller type keycap puller, which is this one, which is just like a ring. That comes with some other keyboards. So I'd recommend that you make sure you've got at least one of these handy before you start pulling. The second thing I would recommend doing is taking a picture of your keyboard before you start, because before you take all the keys off, you've got to make sure that you're then going to put the right ones back in the right place. So taking a picture of the keyboard is really helpful, because then you've actually got a guide on where the keys go. Alternatively, if you haven't got a phone handy, or if you forgot to take a picture, you can go to the manufacturer's website, because they normally have pictures of the keyboard, so you can use that as a guide as well. All right, let's get started on pulling the keys. So to pull a key off, using this puller, which is the Ducky puller, you try and get the bars at the bottom of the prongs underneath the key, and then just slowly give it a tug. And you can see there that the escape keys come off. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to put this escape key back on, because it's red compared to the rest of the white. And I know it's not a pudding keycap, which the ones I'm putting on are. But I don't know if having all white pudding on this will make the keyboard too white, because I like a bit of red because it offsets the colour white, because otherwise it's just all white with white lighting, which is a bit much for me. All right, so then let's repeat this step and pull all of the rest of the keys off. Now when you get to some of the keys like the shift and the spacebar, you need to be careful, because some of them have stabilizer bars in, so pry it off one side and then see where you go. Because you can stick, well, I don't know if you're able to see this, but in the shift key here it's got 3 points, so instead of just connecting to the switch directly, There's also stabilizer parts on either side, so be careful with that. So now I'm going to have a go at the spacebar, so I'm going to try one end first. Oh, and it all popped up. There we go. But again, it's got stabilizer parts at each end, so be very careful. So there we are. I've got all the keycaps off now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get what I need to give it a bit of a clean, because unless you're changing your keycaps on a brand new keyboard and you've been using it, chances are there's a bit of dirt and a bit of grime in there. I'm not going to try and clean it too much, but you know, a basic clean will do. So I'm going to clean the keyboard using an air duster, and I'm also going to use a dust brush. So I'm going to go in first with the dust brush to sort of move everything up and make sure any hairs or anything else have managed to move. So then when I come in with the air duster, it will move it out of the keyboard. There's a little bit there, but a little bit of a hair or cotton or something. Also a good idea is to turn it over and give it a bit of a tap, and then any grime that's left in there or bits and bobs that you've not managed to remove already will fall out. So now that we've pulled all the keys off and it's ready and bare bones, next is get new keycaps set out and laid out, and so we can start putting them on the keyboard. This keycap set is the HK Gaming Double Shot Pudding Keycaps. They've got PBT keycaps. And it actually specifically says it's got 4 extra keys for modifiers for ISO or something along those lines. But let's put them on, see how they are. Whee! I'm going to keep the bag because I'm going to put the other keys that I've taken off back in the bag and back in the box so I can keep them nice and handy so I know where they are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try the spacebar and put it on, see if it fits. Line up the little studs on the bottom of the keyboard with the top of the switch, and then simply press down. And there we go, the spacebar is inserted. So you just repeat that with all of the other keys. And again, you take your phone where you took the picture of the keyboard beforehand and use that as your guide. On this particular keyboard, there's a left shift and a right shift. The right shift is slightly bigger than the left, so be careful when you put your shift keys on to make sure you're getting the right way around. be careful when you're putting the number keys on, because when you've got mine, which is like a full number keyboard, you've got to be careful because you don't want to put any of the number keys from the top row into the number keyboard, because then you have to take them off and move them around. So be careful on that. And if you, in the picture you've taken of your keyboard, you'll be able to see the difference between what's on the two different keycaps for the numbers. If you do put any keys in the wrong place by mistake, you just get your puller and you pull them back off. In this particular case, I put the arrow key in the wrong side, which is easily done because until you put it on, you're not sure if it's exactly in the right one. It's either left or right. Voila, one changed keyboard. You'll notice at the end I've got 4 keys left over. I wouldn't worry about that if you've got keys left over. That's just because they try and make the key sets universal, and in this case there were 4 extras. Another thing to keep in mind is on the keyboard originally there was a Windows key by control over here and a Windows key by function over on the right hand side. The key set didn't include 2 Windows keys. It's a drop down box kind of key that is on the right hand side, so that's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, every key went on and they look pretty nice. So there we are. That was how to change your keycaps. I hope you found that helpful. It's the first time I've ever done a full set like this without any issues, to be perfectly honest, because this time I did the research and went through the points I mentioned earlier in the video about making sure the keycaps lined up and getting a compatible set. Very impressed with how it looks. Not too sure if I'm going to put any of the solid red keycaps back on. I'll see what it looks like once it's lit up. But yeah, that's it. Okay, so if you found that helpful, please don't forget to toss a like on the video. If you want to see videos like this and other videos, please subscribe. If you have any issues changing the keyboard, if you've got any questions, leave any comments down below. And as always, take care.